Now we will talk about the plan to publish. Get the list of the journals. Get the list of the journals. There are, just on PubMed, around 5,000 or maybe more than 5,600 journals. Just PubMed index journals. 5,600 journals. Now, let me ask you a question. I have mentioned that before and I'll mention this again. You know the dartboard game? This is a center, right? This is a center. You have to hit the dart. Let's say it is like this, right? This is how it looks like. So let's say you have to hit this dart, this point in the center. And you have 5,600 darts. 5,600 darts. Do you think you can hit it or not? At least once. Will you hit it or not? Keep hitting, keep hitting, keep hitting, keep hitting. 5,600 is a huge number. Same thing with publication. If one journal rejects, you have so many chances. And by the way, every few days, more journals and more journals are getting PubMed index. So probably now we have 6,000 probably. Increasing. And then other reliable indexing like Web of Science, the biggest indexing in the world, the Web of Science. So many journals on Web of Science that are not on PubMed. So there is no deficiency of good journals. There is no deficiency of good journals. Remember that. But we are just taking an example of 5,600 or 6,000. So if you have unlimited supply, 5,600 darts, you will eventually hit it. Same thing with your publication. That if your first submission, the first journal you submitted your paper to, has rejected your paper, don't get disappointed. Move to the next. When somebody says no to you, I mentioned that last week. Who remembers that? When somebody says no to you, what do you say? When somebody says no to you, what do you say? When somebody says no to you, what do you say? When somebody says, that means nobody was listening, right? When I mentioned that. When somebody rejects you and says no to you, what do you say? Next. When somebody says no to you, you say next. Okay, no, next. No, next. No, next. No, next. Yes. Eventually a yes will happen. You know why? Because there is a law, there is a principle, this is a law of averages. So if anyone is telling you that you have written a paper, or I write papers but my papers don't get published, he doesn't know the law of averages. If anyone is saying that your publication is like a, is a chance that you will probably publish your paper or not, it's a chance. He doesn't know about the law of averages. Nobody taught that poor guy or that poor girl about the law of averages. And this is a divine law. I haven't created this. It's a divine mathematical law that is here in this world. That means, what does that mean? The law of averages. It means if you do something again and again, an odd event will happen. If you do something again and again, an odd event will happen. If you do something again and again, an odd event will happen. That means if you do something again and again, a ratio will appear. In other language, I'll say like this, in other terminology. If you do something often enough, a ratio will appear. Let me explain. 55 into 1 is the ratio. So 55 knows ratio has to come. That's the natural law. So what if your paper is rejected by 55 papers? Who cares? One yes is coming. The point is, are you patient enough? That's the only problem. Are you patient enough? Because getting rejection from a journal and submitting it to a new journal, rejection and submitting to new journal, rejection and submitting to new journal takes time. So you will need to be patient. Anyone who is applying next year, you have plenty of time to publish in a top quality journal. Anyone who is applying next year or after 2 years, you have plenty of time to get 10 no's, 15 no's, 7 no's, 17 no's, 70 no's, because a ratio will definitely appear. And sometimes the first one says yes. That can happen too. Very few times, very, very rarely. It will happen very rarely, extremely rarely. But usually maybe 1:1, 2:1. I have seen most of the time 5:1. 5 rejections from 5 journals and then a yes. According to most of the time in my experience with the scientists that I know, I have seen a 5:1. 5 rejections and finally a publication. So you will not have to go to 5,600. You will not have to wait for 5,600. Don't worry about it. Now, remember one more thing. That's very important. Albert Einstein used to say, the height of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. You guys have heard this, right? It's on Facebook for so long, and everyone has seen this statement by Albert Einstein on Facebook or on Instagram, that the height of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. So what I'm saying here, if first journal says no to you, you do say next, but you will not submit the exact same paper to the next journal. You will improve it a little bit, because there is always room for improvement. I'm telling you the secret of how to publish for sure. Improve it a little bit. Because if one journal has said no to you, highly likely the other journal will also say no to you, and you will have to play the whole law of averages for so long. Why should you waste your time? Why don't you first see what they have said? What is the error? Most of the time, they don't tell you the error. They tell you that we are occupied. We don't have space left. But some journals will tell you the problem if they feel there is any problem. If they tell you a problem, correct it, improve it, and ask them, can I resubmit to your paper, to your journal? Can I resubmit the paper to your journal? After I remove these errors, I improve it. So now listen to me. If a journal rejects your paper, don't get offended. Don't take it personally. The rejection is never a personal rejection. Just see what comments have they given. Did they tell you the reason why they rejected it? The quality related reasons of rejection. Now say, if I remove it, ask them, if I remove and correct these errors, work on that paper again, and I submit it, will you publish it? Ask. Nature has reserved success for people who ask. Somebody shared a very good picture on Facebook, that people who ask their achievements in their whole lifetime. People who don't ask, it was actually this much, way down here. People who don't ask. There is no harm in asking. So if a journal has rejected, it's okay. Just send them an email that I noticed the points that you have mentioned that I need to correct. If I correct it, I resubmit it, will you publish it? There's no harm in asking. What's the maximum? What's the worst they will say? No. Okay, goodbye. Next. Thank you. I respect your decision and don't take personally. Maybe your next paper will be published in the same journal. You need good relationships with the journals. Remember, relationships matter. People who keep publishing more and more papers, they don't tell you the relationships that they have developed a bond with the journal because of their first few publication, 3-4 publication. Now the editor knows you, the journal team knows you. They say, okay, this person sends a good reliable paper, let's not stop his papers. Your relationship matters, so always keep good relationships with the journals. And many a times the journal editors could be your residency director, future residency director. Probably he will take your interview. So never ever misbehave with a journal that, why did you reject my paper? No, you got to maintain good relationship. If they reject the first paper, submit the next paper to that journal, but always maintain a good relationship. Maintain a good relationship with the journal. So now, ask. Now look at this formula. The journal rejects and gives a reason. Hold on. The journal rejects. Everyone draw this. Draw this formula. Draw this flowchart. Journal rejects. There are two possibilities. They give a reason. The second possibility is journal rejects, do not give a reason. If a journal gives a reason, ask resubmission after correction. Ask about resubmission chance, that will you give me another chance if I resubmit it after corrections? If the journal says, let's say here is your submission, journal submission, another box, okay? This is another box. So if you ask, can I resubmit it? The journal says yes. You do the resubmission. Journal rejects, tells you the reason. Play the cycle. Journal rejects, tell you the reason again. Ask them if I can resubmit it after I correct it. They say yes. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Eventually, you will publish your paper. But here, if they say no, you go to next journal.